Good evening. This week, from the war-scarred skies of Yemen to the pressure-packed corridors of the U.S. Federal Reserve, the world finds itself facing new fractures in both global conflict and economic governance. In our first segment, an Israeli airstrike on the Yemeni capital Sana'a has killed the prime minister of the Houthi-run government, along with multiple senior officials, marking a dramatic escalation in Israel's regional campaign against Iran-backed militias. It's the first assassination of a top Houthi leader during this war, and it could spark new waves of retaliation from a group already active in the Red Sea conflict. In our second segment, America's economic credibility is on the line. Former President Donald Trump has launched an unprecedented attack on the independence of the U.S. Federal Reserve, threatening to fire Governor Lisa Cook over alleged mortgage fraud. Experts say this isn't about mortgages, it's about control. I'm Mona Musalhi, and this is In Focus. The Economist reveals a disturbing trend in American governance. Donald Trump has threatened to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook over alleged mortgage misstatements, despite no charges being filed and no legal precedent for such a move. Trump's real motive, analysts say, is to intimidate the Fed and impose his will on interest rates. It's a power play that could destroy decades of institutional dependence and trigger global financial repercussions. Markets have been slow to panic, perhaps because they remember past confirmation failures like Judy Shelton. Behind the scenes, investors are growing nervous. Trump's vision of a compliant Fed state with loyalists echoes the 1970s, when political pressure on the Fed helped fuel devastating inflation, and with America's debt mounting, the incentive to control monetary policy is only growing. Right, joining us is Ms. Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst, to unpack the legal, political, and economic stakes of this unprecedented move. Ms. Ginger, good evening, good afternoon to you. Trump's move against Lisa Cook is being seen as an institutional red line. What makes this situation unprecedented in Fed history?
Yes, well, thank you, Mona, for having me today, and greetings to your viewers. And the independence of the Fed has been a long-running controversy in the United States. Of course, President Trump is the first president to actually bring this to a head and challenge the independence of the Fed. As we know, as we've seen, the Federal Reserve plays a very important role in our economy, setting interest rates. They actually print our currency and charge us for printing the currency, which our Treasury Department could do at a lower cost. So we're at a point in America's economic history where the American people are viewing the Federal Reserve with some suspicion. They're a relatively new institution. They were established in 1913, and there is the perception that the central bank, there's one argument, the central bank is needed to control the American economy, jobs, employment, interest rates. And there's the other perception, the Federal Reserve and the central banks are manipulating the American economy more for their own ends as opposed to for the greater good. Now, the Federal Reserve has a great deal of influence on our economy, but they are unelected. And as we saw during the Biden administration, the inflation, it was very easy for Biden to blame that on the Fed. But ultimately, one of the reasons Kamala Harris was unsuccessful in her bid for the presidency is because of the Federal Reserve and their interest rates. So even though the Federal Reserve is unelected and they could be seen as unaccountable to the American people, they have a great deal of influence on American politics. And that is why President Trump is going for the Fed. He's been saying he wants them to lower interest rates. He thinks they're keeping interest rates high only to thwart his economic plans. However, the Federal Reserve is also looking at employment. Our employment situation is chaotic. Not just the federal firings, but the mass deportations and leaving of migrants who are a very large part of our workforce. So, but most importantly, Trump says that the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates high on housing. And high interest rates on housing is dampening our housing market. Families cannot afford to buy homes. This makes it look like Trump is failing economically. This is why he is now butting heads with the Fed. And Governor Lisa Cook, unfortunately, her situation is in America, we have to get mortgages for our homes and our properties. For your primary home that you live in, you can get a cheap, lower mortgage rates. Governor Lisa Cook has 3 homes, and she claimed all of those homes as her primary home, which is, of course, unlawful in this country, misrepresenting the documents. You can get a low mortgage rate on your primary home. You pay a higher mortgage rate if you are fortunate enough to have a second home, and then any investment properties, you pay a much higher mortgage rate on your investment properties. So it appears that there are irregularities.
It appears here that it is a kind of fraud case. Now, but legally speaking, does the president have the authority to remove a Fed governor under these circumstances? And what does for cause actually mean here?
Mona, that is an excellent question. You cut right to the heart of the matter. The phrase being fired for cause is undefined in this context. And because it's undefined, that means the courts don't really know what to do. So that's why this is actually going to go to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to determine what for cause means. We saw Governor Cook immediately file a complaint against Trump saying that she can only be fired for cause, and her mortgage irregularities are not cause. She would argue cause has to do with the performance of her duties, carrying out the specific responsibilities under the Federal Reserve. She will argue that for cause has to do with no other aspect of her personal finances or her personal affairs. However, in America, people that have a great deal of responsibility are held to a higher standard. Our judges are held to a standard of they must appear beyond reproach. So it is likely that Chairman Powell will hold Lisa Cook to a higher standard. We did see in the past, Chairman Powell has forced out two presidents of the Federal Reserve. He forced them out for insider trading or what appeared to be insider trading on the stock market. Once again, they have to be above reproach, no appearance of impropriety. So the 2 forced out presidents of the Federal Reserve, they will say they resigned. However, indeed, Chairman Powell can apply political pressure to force them out. With Lisa Cook, it is unlikely he will apply the political pressure because the politics involved, we see Powell is antagonistic towards President Trump. Trump is calling Powell names, too late Powell. So there is no love lost between Powell and between President Trump and Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. So if Powell stands behind Governor Cook, this will go all the way to the Supreme Court. And in the meantime, this will leave the American people in a disarray because we want resolution to our mortgage interest rates, which are at their highest point in decades. We would like clarity on our jobs reports, on our unemployment, all within the purview of the Federal Reserve, rather than this personal battle between Governor Cook and President Trump.
Now, Ms. Chapman, let me get it clear from you. Is this really about mortgages or mortgage applications, or is Trump sending a kind of warning shot to other Fed officials? And what does this struggle mean for Jerome Powell's positions, particularly that his chairmanship expires in May, but he, as the governor, or his position as the governor, runs until 2028? What is this whole situation is all about?
Yes, well, as we've seen, President Trump actually threatened to fire Chairman Jerome Powell several months ago at the beginning of his term. President Trump cannot remove Chairman Powell because it is an independent position. The chairman and the governors of the Federal Reserve are nominated by the president, but then they have to be approved and confirmed by the Senate. So they're saying only the Senate can remove us, and we can only be removed for cause. Once we're nominated, the president has no authority. We're independent. We do see that President Trump would like control over the Federal Reserve, and we do see Trump is not shy about threatening to fire and remove people with Chairman Powell. There is a danger for the United States if the president is viewed as having too much control over the Federal Reserve. We might see a situation like Turkey, where the battles between President Erdogan and between their central bank, their battles create enough disruption that neither can get anything done. So in a way, that harms their economy.
That brings me, Ms. Chapman. Yes, that brings me, Ms. Chapman, to ask you, how are markets reacting so far, and what would a political compromised Fed mean for long-term economic policy and global investor confidence?
Well, so far our markets are reacting calmly to the Federal Reserve. This is a very old battle between presidents and the central bank. The presidents always want the central bank to lower interest rates to make conditions better for hiring, while the central bank does not want runaway inflation. They do not want the economy to heat up too much. So the Federal Reserve has to walk a fine line. The markets seem to be reacting calmly to this battle because there's nothing new here, and they know this will take time to play out. And indeed, the markets are very good at baking into their numbers all of the conflict and volatility that might arise from the Federal Reserve, specifically with jobs numbers and a few percentage points, fractions of a point with inflation. The bigger battle is really the independence of the Fed. Would we move to a model like China, where the Chinese government and their central bank are on the same page? They are in lockstep. The mortgage rates are exactly what the president wants. They have no inflation, or they have very low inflation. So the Chinese model is not as frightening as the people who want the independence of the Fed make it out to be. When the Fed is independent, there's also stability. However, when we see the president and the Federal Reserve, when they are battling, that causes uncertainty. Right now, mortgage rates are so high that this cannot disrupt the market for mortgages anymore. The stock market has everything baked in. This is going to become a political power battle between
So,
the president and the central bank.
right. So in this case, can we draw parallels to the Nixon era when the Fed was pressured into keeping rates artificially low? And what were the consequences then?
Well, during the Nixon era, that was a time of great volatility. Ironically, we also saw that was when President Nixon traveled to China, reached out internationally. However, the biggest difference is at that time, the United States, we were on the gold standard, and we had a great deal of debt from our previous wars, and other countries were cashing in their debt and demanding American gold. We did not have enough gold to pay off our debts. That is interestingly one of the first times that America defaulted on our debt. We went off the gold standard in 1973. So we are not in a similar economic condition as when President Nixon went off the gold standard in 1973. We also saw that was followed by a period of economic malaise, Jimmy Carter, stagflation coupled with inflation, the worst of all worlds, low wages and high prices. So the 1970s, we also had the oil embargo, another self-inflicted wound. The oil embargo, where we were embargoing oil from Iran, so our economy crawled to a standstill. We had cars lining up at gas stations trying to fill their tanks with gas. So in one sense, things are very different now than in Nixon's era. However, history does repeat itself. We do see larger picture, the United States is once again butting heads with Iran. We are in a period of incredible volatility in the Middle East. The American dollar, some say it's in a decline because of the BRICS and other countries trying to create alternative currencies to trade with than the dollar. On the other hand, the US dollar, if the dollar is weak, it can help the American consumer. It makes goods cheaper for us. It's a double-edged sword because it also makes it harder for us to pay back our debts. This all
Chaplin,
ties in. Mhm.
at the Nixon era, we've seen the petro dollar issue. So what are we supposed to be seeing at this stage?
President Trump would like a strong dollar because that is a sign of American economic strength. However, the reality is our economy is in a chaos. Our jobs market is in chaos. We don't know. Our jobs market is in chaos because of immigration. Our monetary policy is in chaos because we do not know if it helps us pay our debts with a strong dollar or if it hurts the American consumer to have a strong dollar. So we are at a very conflicted time. Strong dollar.
It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. We thank you so much.
We are at economic chaos. The Cook trial will go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will have to decide what for cause means. In the meantime, we will have economic chaos.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Ginger Chapman, for that crucial analysis. And as the U.S. election season accelerates, this battle over the Fed may well shape the future of American economic leadership and the global financial order. From Washington, where the U.S. Fed Reserve is under attack, to the battlefield, to the boardroom. Reuters reports that an Israeli airstrike on Thursday struck a Houthi leadership compound in Yemen's capital, Sana'a, killing Prime Minister Ahmed Ghalib al-Rahawi and several senior ministers, including the energy, foreign and information ministers. Though Rahawi was largely seen as a symbolic figurehead, the strike marks the first high-profile assassination of senior Houthi officials since the Gaza war began, and signals a significant escalation in Israel's shadow war with Iranian proxies. The attack reportedly targeted a gathering of top Houthi officials as they prepared to watch a televised speech by the group's leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi. Israel called the strike a crushing blow, while the Houthis vowed revenge. It remains unclear if the group's defense minister Mohammed al-Ataifi, head of their missile brigades, was among the casualties. This moment could mark a tipping point in the Red Sea conflict, dragging the region further into Israel's wider war effort. Let's bring Mr. Ahmed Maharem into this discussion. Mr. Ahmed Maharem, writer and political analyst, for your perspective on what this could mean for Yemen and the wider region. Mr. Maharem, let me start by asking you, this is the first targeted Israeli assassination of senior Houthi government figure. How significant is this development and the timing of these developments?
Well, I think it will never make any difference on the result of the ground. Yemen is a special case. Either America, neither Israel, both. For the last 2 years, how many times both American Air Force and the Israeli Air Force have been attacked Yemen in order to attack different military spots or personnel. This is the first time to attack personnel. Unfortunately, this kind of war, it will never end because Yemen is a special case. The Yemeni people live in a mountain, and it could be maybe Israeli intelligence, they reach for somehow, they are good in that. Where are those, leaders are having their conference or meeting, but on the long run, nothing will happen. We have seen still the feeling or the belief of the Houthi people that they will defend the Palestinian and the Gaza people unless or until Israel will stop the war. They will still continue, struggling and facing their ships on the Red Sea.
Exactly. And this is my question. How might this assassination affect Houthi military activity in the Red Sea, especially their attacks on commercial vessels and missile launches towards Israel?
Unfortunately, it will never stop them because if we get back to the last 2 years, the result of all the attack by Israeli Air Force and American Air Force, they're still doing what they are doing. Nobody exactly can imagine or measure how many or how the capacity of the weapons and the missiles. And one of the time, I think they attacked one of the very important aircraft from the American Navy. And nothing will happen as America or Israeli or America itself, they have to succeed sometime to make a deal directly with the Houthi. That means they have no other alternative to deal with Al-Houthi unless they have to negotiate with them. Is it costing Al-Houthi more or costing America and Israel more? Who's attacking? I mean, two main big military forces in the world, Israeli and American, they still compare what they are doing with Al-Houthi, and they did not exactly succeed to stop what they are supposed to do. Al-Houthi will continue. So I think Israel and America has to do something different with Al-Houthi because they have long-term of... In Sana'a, those Al-Houthi people, they are living in the mountains. It is not easy to reach exactly them as easy to do what they are doing in Gaza Strip right now.
Right. Mohammed al-Arabi's status remains so unclear if he was indeed killed or what. Now, how much of a strategic loss would that be for the Houthis, considering his role in their missile operations?
It's exactly like Hamas. They have different categories of people: front line, first, second line. The same with the Houthi. If Al Houthi will lose some of their categories as leaders, they will still have the belief that they can continue. It doesn't matter how many people and how many categories are being lost.
Right. What message do you think is Israel sending with this strike, especially after a year of cross-border tit-for-tat attacks with Hezbollah and Hamas?
Well, they have done that in Iran, they have done that in Lebanon, and they have done that in Hamas in Gaza Strip. This is the first time to be taking place or to be done in Yemen. Yemen is different. It will never stop the Houthi, and it's a kind of trial. I think Israel is trying to see what is the result. I think the result will not be exactly as Israeli is hoping, that they will stop doing what they are doing. Let us wait for the next couple of hours or days what the Houthi reflect will be.
Then could this attack widen the war front or provoke a direct response from Iran? And we are aware that Iran now is in a high stake with the world community, Europe and the United States. Or will the Houthis act independently in retaliation, do you think?
Well, for some time, Iran does not want to be directly involved, but it is well known that all the weapons are supplied by the Iranian. Are they anymore, or they still doing any different kind of supply? But I think Iran, in that case, they will show sometime a kind of solidarity with Al-Houthi, because this is the only group of people are still alive doing exactly what Iran is wishing to do. So Iran will show sometime some very clear solidarity to the Houthi people.
Now, how is this strike being perceived in Yemen's divided political landscape, especially by the internationally backed government in Aden?
Well, it's a good question, but I think I still consider that Iran is a different case, and it is not easy for Israel or America itself to put an end to what the Al-Houthi are doing for the attacking the Israeli vessel, the trade on the Red Sea. They attacked before even a military vessel by the United States. And it was kind of a shame, I guess, for a big country like America, are not easy exactly to deal directly with Al-Houthi unless they have to negotiate with them how they can stop the war.
Right. Given that Rahawi was not part of the Houthi inner circle, do you think this strike was symbolic, tactical, or both?
I think both, yeah. It can be considered both, yes.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any idea about what would be the next stage, or yet we have to wait and see?
I think we have to wait to see what the payback or the reflection from the Houthi. Maybe they are on a kind of a study when and how they can show they're sort of strong enough to attack. So many times it was amazing the way they attack some Israeli military bases. Let's wait and see, but this time it could be a kind of unexpected when and how, but it could be, I think, painful enough to the Israeli.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Maharem, for your insights on this unfolding story. And as tensions rise across the Red Sea and beyond, Israel's regional campaign is entering uncharted and highly dangerous territory. From assassination in Yemen to threats against America's central bank, this week's stories reflect a world where norms are under siege, from international law to economic independence. As power grows more concentrated and more aggressive, the institutions meant to balance its face their most dangerous tests yet. This has been In Focus. Many thanks for watching.